Hello, good morning, mummies. We have Ashwinni with us today. Ashwinni is kind of a regular. You've become like a regular on the BumpWise Coffee
It
Mornings.
feels that way. It feels very familiar
I love
now.
it. Ashwinni is here today to talk to us about relationships, and we're hoping for lots of pregnant mummies to join because this is obviously everything is going to change for you. And you more experienced mummies who have kids who are maybe, our groups go all the way up to 10 years old. You might be very familiar with the challenges that having babies and small children can pose on your pregnancy, on your relationship. And so we're going to learn about that and some useful tools and strategies. But we'll start today by Ashwinni introducing herself. I think you'll do a much better job at this than I can.
Thank you for inviting me, Anna, and nice to be here again. I wanted to say there's a talk is also for parents at any stage of parenthood, that these skills are valuable at any point. So my name's Ashwinni. You can call me Ash as well. I'm a psychologist and I specialize in perinatal mental health. So I pretty much right now just specialize in working with parents through pregnancy and postpartum and supporting them through the parenting journey. I even work with parents that struggling with young kids and that early parenting challenges. Today's topic, when Johanna asked me what I'd like to talk about, I really thought this one is a relevant one because every time we run our Mindful Mums free support groups, and even in the sessions I have, we often end up coming back to the relationship. And this is a big one that I think a lot of parents are struggling with, but don't always talk about. The focus is always on the baby and not so much about how the relationship's doing. And so I really wanted to shed some light on this topic. The kind of challenges I guess I hear mums talk about when it comes to their relationship after baby is like maybe feeling a sense of unfairness. That's a really big one, about like just the distribution of roles. And so I wanted to kind of talk about what to expect and how to prepare you better. Other things might be like conflict that arises due to like differences in maybe parenting styles. Often in-laws can come in the mix there as well, and own unique upbringings can come in play. A decrease in intimacy is a big part, and what else? I guess sometimes if these issues are not addressed, like in the long term, more resentment can build up. So I really say to kind of start working on these early, and I like to think about it as like as maintenance. Yeah, a lot of couples feel like they don't want to seek help because they think that means that my relationship is in a crisis. That means that we're gonna need to separate. Like that, going to counseling for to work on my relationship is a bad thing. But actually, I always see it as maintenance, and this is a new phase of your relationship. You've gone from partners to parents, so a lot changes in this transition. And so it's an important time to really look at how things are working.
Absolutely. And I also think everything changes for the mom too. I think I want to add to your list that moms often don't feel very fulfilled necessarily. Not all of us have had this lifelong dream of being surrounded by 13 children on around the kitchen table, and we give up our professional lives, our career. Our husbands go to work, or our partners go to work, and they have this other life, this other environment where they can have an adult conversation. But as moms, we often don't get that, and that can be a really lonely and frustrating time, I find too. And this matrescence, this becoming a mother, I think is becoming more and more of a buzzword in out there on Instagram and everywhere. But it's a really important thing. It's adolescence. You're becoming a teenager, an adult, and now you are becoming a mother. And it's an important thing that we need to celebrate and give space to as well. Okay, mummies, I'm loving that you're all on the call. We've got quite a good turnout today, and I'm sure lots of other moms will join later and then also watch the recording. And as always, this is all about you as well. Ashwinni has prepared a presentation, which she's going to share now. But we are happy to stop in between or maybe park some questions for after. There'll be time for Q&A. And we'd love for you to also share what worked for you. Like, how did you overcome some of the obstacles and challenges that you had in this early phase of your parenthood? So take it away, Ashwinni.
Thanks,
Thank
Johanna. Can you see my slides all right?
you. Yes, we can.
Okay, fantastic. So I did make a mention here that a lot of what I'm talking about today is based on the Gottman Institute model. So just a little bit of background. Gottman are they are a couple. They're psychologists, and they're based in the US, and they have researched relationships for many years now, and they've done extensive research on what makes couples work, like what leads to kind of strong relationships, and what are the factors that lead to separation. And so they have a really great kind of clear model that I wanted to share, like some of the I guess secrets that they have learned in watching how couples that are strong interact with each other. So that's what I'll be kind of focusing on today, is a lot from that model. So this is the topics that I'll be covering today. To start with, the challenges to expect in your relationship. So especially for parents who are kind of expecting their first baby, it may help them just have some realistic expectations of what might come up after having baby, and may give them an opportunity to start having some conversations around these before baby comes in, so they can be a bit more prepared. How to parent as a team. So this is really focusing more on the parenting piece and how to work together. The third part is how to stay connected. So how to stay close as a couple as well, how to keep your relationship strong. And the last part is how to make a request. And this is really about kind of how to discuss a problem together that arises. Many little things are going to come up after baby, and conversations. And so how do we have these conversations and make them fruitful and productive, rather than kind of leading to conflict. So some kind of tips there on how to have these conversations, because there'll be lots of them. So I guess I wanted to start with saying, like, why is it so important? So the best gift that you can give your child is actually a healthy relationship between you and your partner. So many of the moms, the parents that I've worked with, like, when they're pregnant, they put so much focus into preparing for the birth, so much focus into preparing their space, all of the practical things that they need to bring the baby into this world. But often they don't prepare for their relationship. And this is almost like setting up a new business, and you've prepared everything you need for the business, you've set up your business space, but you haven't actually talked about who's going to do what are the roles and expectations of the employees in this business, and how can we run our business efficiently without having clarity around those roles and expectations, and having regular check-ins with the employees to see how they're doing. I know that sounds not so romantic, but it really does feel like that once you have a baby. There's just so many things to juggle and to figure out. And I think something unique to Singapore is there's not only the couple, there's often a third person. It could be an in-law, a mother-in-law, a mother, a helper. There's in Singapore, we do have a different kind of, our village may look a little different. So I will talk a little bit about that too. So these are some challenges to expect. You may or may not experience these, but I'll share that these are some common ones that I hear. So increased conflict and more stressful conversations. Now the stress, right, that those first few months, there's so much different things going on that can lead to increased stress for both parents, right? The lack of sleep, the change of roles, could have been like a difficult birth, or there might be some health issues going on with the baby. There's lots of things in those first few months that can increase stress generally. So there can be more stressful conversations in those first few months, especially. Unclear roles and expectations, and as I talked about, a lot of couples don't really talk about what are things going to look like after baby arrives? Who is going to do what? When is who, what's happening with work? When is mum going back to work? Is mum going back to work? Who's going to do the childcare? A lot of these conversations are not really had, and there can be miscommunication. So, dad might have had a mum that was a stay-at-home mum, and may just expect that mum is going to take on that same role. And in mum's mind, they may think, oh, work is really important. I need to get back to my career as soon as I can. And this is not talked about, and that's where conflict can come up. Reduction in sex and intimacy for many reasons, just having less time together. Mums are often exhausted. Both parents are exhausted. Mums are also going through hormonal changes and, may have also some changes in their body after having a baby, having to go through labor and pregnancy. So there are lots of reasons, less space, less time, right? Many reasons that this can change. And again, the last point, less space and time, right, to talk and to connect and to be alone. There's often always another little one in this room now. So yeah, it can change the relationship dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we parent as a team, right? So the first part is discussing roles and expectations. Yeah. What do you kind of want to do? How do you see yourself as a parent? What's important to you? How are you going to share out all these different roles where there's so many more things to think about, right? There's not only childcare, but there's also cooking, the cleaning, and which I'll go into next, but it's like this invisible kind of list of stuff that always needs to be done, like paying bills, it could be ordering groceries, keeping track of the baby's appointments. So this kind of mental checklist that often mums tend to hold on to a lot. Discussing what's important to you as a parent, right? So this is something we don't always talk about, but from our own experiences, what do we want to bring into parenting? What do we want to leave behind from how our parents raised us? What are important parts of our childhood that we want to, bring into our parenting now? So really what are some rituals maybe you kind of practiced from at home and, growing up that are really important to you? So we both often come from different backgrounds. And so it's really important to chat about, like, what do you really want to bring into this family? How do you see your family? What are your dreams for this family? They may look quite different. So it's good to kind of just be aware of what's important to that other person. Turn taking. Yeah, both parents are often tired for different reasons and are both lacking alone time and time for the things they used to enjoy. So I always encourage parents to take turns to support each other. Maybe one day in the weekend, especially if they're both working, right? Like maybe mom sleeps in on a Saturday and dad takes baby out to do stuff. Maybe, dad sleeps in on a Sunday. So taking turns to rest, taking turns to nap in those first few weeks, sharing out that night shift. Maybe dad does the first part of the night or the early morning, and deciding how you guys going to share things out. And taking turns, I think, also to be alone and to have time with your friends and for exercise. So it feels balanced. It feels like you're both kind of doing this together as a team and chatting about how to make that work. And what you may both need may also look different. Yeah, like for one parent, they may need to just be alone, and that might be really important to them. For another parent, they may need to meet their friends or they may need to exercise. So what you both need also for your own downtime might look really different.
Yeah.
And having regular meetings with each other. So it is almost like a business. And I find that when couples start to like talk about kind of the issues in the moment, like in the heat of the moment, it's often not so productive because there's a lot of emotion that's in those moments. So if you can try to maybe set up meetings like once a week or once, I don't know, every 2 weeks, where you can sit together and discuss like what's working and what's not. And it's a really good opportunity to check in with each other. I try to do this more often with my husband now because he travels so often. So I find that if we don't do it, it's really hard to make decisions. And sometimes we just have to set up time where we sit together and we make decisions. Like we have a little bit of an agenda sometimes, otherwise we just keep kind of missing each other. And it's a good opportunity to discuss problems. And I will share how to do that near the end of the talk.
Mm-hmm. I think that's super important because it often, it can sound like nagging and always complaining, and
yeah,
there's always that imbalance, or often that imbalance, and moms often feel that they don't feel guilty for voicing what they need. So I think it's really good that you share some strategies for us today.
Thanks, Johanna. Yeah, I see many mums who come and say, I keep saying the same thing and I feel like it's not being heard. And so it's often maybe like the way it's coming out, or it may not just be the right timing also. Like we have to also think about choosing the right timing, and the way it's said, it's going to be received much better.
Yeah.
So yeah, I will chat a little bit more about that. Because if it's said in the wrong way, it can lead to conflict, and the other person can shut down quite quickly if they feel attacked. So this is the mental load. That's what I was talking about earlier. So these are some things that I'm sure you've all heard of these, but this is often, there's just a lot more that to manage, right? Once we have a baby. And so it's important to kind of be aware, and maybe even writing down together, sitting down and writing down together all of these different things. These are just some examples here, like meal planning, grocery shopping, appointments, also the emotional needs of the family members. If you do feel like your relationship's not going so well, like who's keeping track of that? Often one parent is keeping track of a lot of these things. And the life admin, right? Like finances, there's just so many different things that constantly need to be monitored and kept track of. One parent may tend to just take on more of that because they are used to it, they're better at it. Often I see mums trying to take on all of this stuff, but they are struggling. They're like, this is just too much. I can't do this and look after the children and work. And it builds up resentment, but they kind of keep doing it because they say, I just do it faster. I know how to do it. And I know I'm going to do it the way I need it to be done. So they also struggle to let go. But often, I guess, we do need to delegate, and we need to make sure these things in the family are shared out, so one parent doesn't feel burnt out by trying to manage it all.
So you need to choose your battles. And I think letting go of perfection is one of the first things you have to do as a parent. Your house is not going to look perfect every time, like out of a living magazine, whatever. And the same for certain things. So what if it's the wrong type of cream cheese, Can I live with that? What is my bigger struggle here? Yeah.
Absolutely. And you're right about that. It does, in terms when you delegate, you have to also let go and allow that partner to do it in their own way. And kind of leave it to them. If it doesn't go right, if it's not done on time, that's on them as well. So letting go, and how you would, at work as well. One parent may tend to, I guess, have strengths in some of these different areas as well. So I know my husband is generally better at some of these admin things, and I let him do it because I know that's kind of things that he's better in, and I'm better at maybe handling the kids more hands-on, dealing with tantrums and things like that. So also looking at your own unique strengths and how you can complement each other. So how do we stay connected? Yeah, this is going to be a little more structured. There's like 4 kind of big parts of this. So the first part is really knowing your partner. Many of you may have met your partners in your 20s, and I guess what their interests were, what they liked, what they didn't like, who their friends were, maybe their life dreams, that might have changed quite a bit. But what was different is, when you first meet your partner, you're curious, you ask questions, you're interested, and that can change over time. We stop kind of being so curious, and things can get a little mundane. And often after having kids, like it's very easy to slip into like this roommate kind of relationship where it's just kind of friends, right? But we want to make sure that we really know each other at a deeper level and stay attuned to what's going on in your partner's life. And part of that is asking a way of doing that is asking open-ended questions, like not just questions that are a yes or no answer, like have you had lunch? What time are you going to be home tonight? What are we having for dinner tonight? That is just like a one kind of response. It's going a little bit deeper, right? Healthy couples, they go even deeper. How has your day been with the kids today? Tell me about your day. What was that meeting like for you? I know you were really worried about that meeting you had at work or that presentation. How did it go? Or how's the preparation coming along? Tell me about, the book you're reading or the TV show you're watching at the moment. Can we watch it? Can we watch it together sometime? So really staying, connected to your partner's world. It's so easy to just kind of focus on like just, the getting through the day and the things that need to be done for the kids, and getting into that very task focus mode. So keeping kind of aware of what's going on with your partner. What I really appreciate about what my husband does is he travels a lot for work, and whenever he's away, and he's got off a flight, he'll always send me a message and just say like, how was your night with the kids? Or how did the appointment go today? Or like just, and what I feel is often he knows what's going on in my day. He's aware, he remembered. And even though he's been away for a couple hours on a flight, he's checked in and being quite kind of specific as well about what he's asking, not just how are you, but how was something that he remembered was going on for me that day, right? How was school drop off this morning?
Yeah, that shows you he cares and he knows and he's with you in thoughts. Yeah.
Absolutely with you. That's a really big, that's a good way to put it, Jana, is really feeling that your partner is with you. And this goes both ways, yeah, for both partners, not just the one that's home with the baby. Yeah. Because often I would say dads tend to sometimes feel a little neglected when baby comes along. So much focus and sometimes be on this mom and baby unit and how baby's doing, and they can feel left out, they can feel neglected. And so I guess so much affection and intimacy and yeah, like just attention goes towards this baby.
Yeah.
So I think making sure that it's both ways. So this emotional bank account, everything I talked about today is related to this emotional bank account. So an emotional bank account, this is like a financial bank account for your relationship. So there's deposits, so it's thinking about how you are putting into your relationship. And we want to save, we want to have enough savings for a rainy day, for when things are bad, when conflict comes up, that you have put enough positive things to enrich your relationship, that you can still see each other with some compassion and positive perspective and good intentions, and there's still that kind of deeper love there that helps your relationship when there are withdrawals. Yeah, withdrawals are conflict. Withdrawals are when that partner is not in tune. That withdrawals are like when I guess you don't feel heard, you don't feel listened to, you don't feel like your needs are being responded to, and that's going to happen. But if there's enough deposits, we can get through those times. Yeah. And we want to have an overabundance of funds. So how do you deposit into your relationship? The first thing is, you can see here, small things often. Couples so often feel that in order to keep their relationship strong, you must plan date nights still. You have to keep up like those things that you were doing before. They're great, but they require planning. They don't happen that often. They may only be once a month, if that, right? So what is more important is small things often. These are these kind of micro things that you guys are doing in your daily lives. They may not feel that big, but if they're done like often, they will result in much bigger changes later in your relationship. It's like just ordinary things you don't need to wait for, right? So things like asking questions, like I mentioned earlier, open-ended questions, checking in with each other, sending a little WhatsApp, leaving a post-it, physical touch. So like it's so easy to just kind of be like two ships sailing in the night and passing by each other. One's doing school drop-off, one's rushing to work, and we forget to touch each other. I think that was one thing I really noticed change in my relationship so much. Like just not like having that time to like just hug like you used to, or kiss goodbye, before one partner leaves the house. You're often just rushing. And so I would say like just making sure that you're still touching, holding hands or hugging or giving each other that kiss goodnight. Even if your schedules are not always aligned, like just those small micro moments, just pausing, stopping, embracing each other as you're passing each other, rushing out the door, is really important. And the longer we go without physical touch in our relationships, the harder it is to come back again.
Absolutely, I totally see that.
Yeah, and acts of kindness, little things like making your partner a coffee before they leave the house. Maybe you're making overnight oats for them. Thinking of something that they really needed, that they said they needed, and then you've thought about it and you've gone out and bought it for them without them having to ask for it. It could be noticing that your partner is really busy with the kids and is also trying to do their work or take a phone call, and just being quite observant that they're trying to juggle a lot of things, and just saying, hey, look, hold on, let me take the kids for a moment. Or like, right, so just kind of being aware, noticing a little more.
Ashwinni, we have a question that is related to the physical
okay. Let me see.
and this is, what's your advice for moms who feel touched out? Because I think that happens a lot, I would say, in the first at least 3 months, if not 6.
Absolutely.
We constantly have that baby on us, and it's like, I'm
Yeah.
done. I feel like I'm not my own. I've got this appendage constantly on me. So any tips for that?
Thank you for bringing that up. I forgot to mention at the start, I'm also a mom. I have a 4.5-year-old and an 11-month-old. So I'm very, very familiar with that, right? Especially, moms who are breastfeeding all the time, they have kids climbing on them. It's very easy to feel like overwhelmed. Like whenever you don't have the kids on you, you don't want to be touched. You just want to be alone. I can completely relate to that experience. And you're not alone in that. Most of the moms I see, feel this, like they just want to be alone. I guess one part of that is this is usually temporary, right? Like those first few, I would say that first year is very overwhelming. Not only do mums feel like touched out physically, but they're exhausted, right? The last thing they want to do is be intimate at the end of the day. So I guess one part is normalizing it, and hormones play a big part as well, in terms of like sex drives for mums that can be lower if they're, for example, breastfeeding, or for a few months postpartum as well. So some of those changes are also kind of chemical changes too. First part will be communicating that, right? Because I think sometimes if a partner, if you're it may come across as a rejection, if one partner is constantly approaching the other and they're being shut down. So how do we kind of do this gently? It might be first explaining, like, what is that feeling like? What are you feeling like? Like what, that it's not them, that you are just feeling really tired and touched out today. Actually, Esther Perel, who's this, some of you may know of her. She specializes in relationships and sexuality. She's a psychotherapist in the US. She talks about how often desire doesn't come first. We wait, like what comes first is willingness, and that intimacy is a big part of a relationship. So it might take some time to get there in your relationship, like after having a child, but to also find ways you can still prioritize it. So it might mean, it may not be as spontaneous as it used to be because you've got kids around, you've not always feeling great, but planning it. It may feel a little strange to have to plan it, but actually what you're doing is prioritizing intimacy. So it may be you think of like a particular date in the month or the week that works for you and your partner, and you can kind of plan and prepare yourself for that. For moms who also feel touched out, I would say looking at your own needs, that they may not always be met when you're with a baby all the time. Sometimes you may feel a little bit better in yourself once your own needs are met too. So are there things that you need to be doing for yourself on a regular basis that is looking after yourself? Because sometimes it can feel a lot always having to give to others.
Yeah.
Sorry, so that's a kind of a little brief. Hopefully you've been able to take something from that. Where was I? Connecting, acts of kind of physically expressing fondness and appreciation as well, which I'll go on to a little bit more later on about the bringing positives into the relationship. So constantly thinking all the time in the ways you're interacting. Am I kind of depositing into this emotional bank account, or am I withdrawing? What is this balance feeling like? And really thinking of ways you can keep putting in through touch, through gratitude, through small gestures, as often as you can throughout the day in small little ways, supporting each other, working as a team, feeling like you're less alone in this. This third part is turning towards one another. So we call this bids for connection. Bids are the way that we express our needs. So they can be verbal, where a partner might say, hey, have a look at this thing that I just saw, I just read, or I'm doing, or the baby's done. They'd be maybe asking you to come over. And so often I would say that our phones are the biggest killer for like turning towards each other.
Yeah.
I know there's been times when my husband's talking to me and I'm just like scrolling through my phone and I'm not truly listening. Yeah. So this happens a lot for all of us. So be really mindful of when your partner is asking you a question or making a request or making a statement or saying something. Like put that phone down, look at them, and really pay attention to what they're saying. I have a presentation at work tomorrow. Maybe they've just made a statement and they want you to ask about it. They want you to kind of hear a bit more about, that thing that they're worried about. It could be non-verbal, right? It could be very subtle. So even looking out for little signs that your partner is expressing a need. It could be a need for connection. It could be a need for intimacy. It could be a need for attention. It could be a need for, I don't know, to help. It could be to help them with something. It could be any need. So verbal could be like reaching out for a hug, and maybe we've just kind of missed that because we're distracted or we're in a rush and we've walked past them and like being like, oh no, I'm too busy for that, right? So just kind of picking up on those bids. It could be a sigh or a grunt. So something so subtle that you've heard. Maybe they're changing a nappy and you've heard them sigh. And that might be a small little kind of sign that they feel tired or they want you to do it right this time. So picking up on those subtle cues, some of us are not very clear about expressing our needs. It may be more subtle. So knowing your partner as well, how do they express their needs? It may look different to yours. If we keep shutting down and not responding to our partner's bids, it's almost like they keep inviting you to, out for coffee and you keep declining their request, they're eventually going to stop asking. This is really important. But also so easy to miss. Yeah, I've been there. I do this too all the time. Even knowing all this stuff, I miss it sometimes. And we are sometimes busy. We are sometimes in the middle of stuff. We sometimes cannot. I struggle when the kids are whining and calling me and climbing on me. I really struggle to be attending to them and be having a conversation at the same time. So often when my husband is trying to ask me a question and make a decision, I can't really respond properly, and I can see he's getting frustrated, and I might say, hey, like, I can't really talk about this right now. Like, I hear you. I know you need to talk about this. Can we wait until the kids go to sleep? I can't really think right now. Yeah, so you can still respond just to let them know you've heard them without necessarily having to attend to it right there and then. But that can sometimes be enough. And this is something that adds to the emotional bank account. Yeah. So, and when you do respond, make your partner feel heard, make them feel valued, important. Often, and I would say men more tend to jump into problem solving mode really quickly when their wife maybe asks them a question or, they've expressed that they're struggling with something. So I often will say like to just try to listen and maybe acknowledge the feeling, acknowledge what you've just heard, and ask them, what would you like? What do you need from me? Do you want me to help you problem solve this, or would you like me to just listen? Yeah, sometimes we assume what they need.
Yeah.
Okay, so what is this point? Increase the positives. So this fourth part is really about focusing on the keeping positive to our partner. So expressing appreciation, affection, admiration. It's so easy to focus often on what's going wrong, what's not working, what they're not doing enough of. I would say, and I know it's a bit of a generalization, but women, we tend to be more critical. Yeah, we tend to point these things out in our partners more often than kind of positively reinforcing. And often as we know, with behavior, to encourage behavior we want to see, positive reinforcement is actually more effective, right? So I would say like try to notice don't notice only the black dots on the white paper. Yeah, look for what your partner is doing. Look for both of you. Look for their willingness to try. Look for, you know, that the efforts that they are doing, even if it's not looking the same way. Often dads, I think they're trying to figure stuff out. They may not have been with the baby as often, right? They maybe at work more, for example, and they come back and baby's a little bit different. They don't really know how to settle baby. They may be a little stressed and anxious, and they may be trying, but they're just maybe not doing it the right way. They're trying to figure it out. And I would say give them a little bit of space to figure it out their own way. They need to learn how to do it their own way. They need to learn dads need to learn how to find their own way of bonding and connecting with their kids, and it can look different to ours. So often mums we're very particular about the way we do everything, especially when we're with our children all the time. It can be really hard to let go. So I would just say to try to allow your partner to do things in their own way. Coming back to this, try to start to notice what they have done right. And assume their best intention. Always look at the intention beneath the behavior, right? Did they mean to do it? Was it an accident? Was it something that they were like consciously, you know, not doing well? And this ratio, this always kind of is a good reminder, right? 20 positives to every 1 negative. We forget how much damage that one little negative interaction can do. So what this means is try to have 20 positive things to say about your partner for every 1 negative or, you know, feedback you have.
Yeah, because otherwise it's so easy to be caught in this negative narrative.
Absolutely.
And not be able to come out of it.
Sorry, I think I've just took my slides.
Sharing now,
yeah, let me just get back my okay. So I would like to just try a little exercise oh wait, where did it go? No, I'll leave it to the end. Sorry, I moved that slide to the end. I'll keep the last one to the end. Before we go to the exercise I wanted to talk about how to make a request, right? So how to have a conversation about something that you need, that something's not working, how to address a problem, how do we have these conversations? This can often, if it's not done in the right way, as I mentioned, it can lead to conflict very quickly. So it's really important to think about how we have these conversations with each other. I'm just trying to find my notes on that. Often, if the first few minutes, how we start up a conversation will lead to how it ends up, right? So if it's a soft startup, the rest of the conversation is going to go probably pretty well. But if it's a harsh startup, that is often the biggest predictor for conflict. Yeah, so really thinking about how you start that conversation, the tone you're using, the words you're using, starting with, like, as soon as a conversation starts with you, that person will immediately put up a wall of defense because they feel attacked. So using I statements, really, even if you feel really angry or annoyed, being really mindful of that tone, because that tone can come, if it's just said in that wrong way, it can come it can be received as an accusation or a blame, right? So we have to be really mindful of our tone, the volume we're speaking, our body language, you know, how is our facial expression? Really subtle things, right? Allow us to have a more, just being conscious of that can help to have a softer startup. And often when we're sleep deprived and we are you know, overwhelmed, we've just been with a baby all day long, like it's not often the right time and place, which I was going to mention earlier. Finding the right time and place, right, to have these conversations is so important. Because in the middle of the night, I remember having those conversations sometimes in the middle of the night, and they don't go anywhere. So pick your battles as well, right? There's going to be lots of things you'll find in your relationship, whether you have children or not, that you like and that you know that you don't like and that's not working. But if we kind of pick on every single thing, firstly, that partner is going to not really pay attention. Secondly, like, they may not realize which ones are really important to you and which ones are not. So have a think about which ones are really important. How big a deal is it? How, yeah, is it necessary, I guess, to talk about? Or do we kind of want to maybe make a mention of it and just like see how it goes, gives them another opportunity before we like sit down and talk about it. Accept responsibility, so if you are having a conversation, even just starting with like maybe something you could have done, like, oh, I'm sorry that I didn't kind of bring this up I didn't talk about this very nicely the first time. I'm sorry that I raised my voice when I first mentioned this yesterday, right? So maybe just mentioning a bit of like what your role was in the issue as well, or like, I'm sorry, I wasn't very clear. I wasn't very clear about what you needed to do with the baby when I was out that morning. I know that was partly my fault. And then kind of going on to like what you need from them. Yeah. So accepting that your part as well. Mentioning a time, when they've done it well. I really appreciated the last time when I had to go out with my friend for coffee that you took our child to the playground, and she had such a good time with you. And I really loved that you guys did something, something bonding together when I went out. That was really nice. She really loves it when you do those things with her. So like also pointing out the times that they have done it well. So this is a kind of a rough like template that you can try when you want to have a conversation. I always wait until I have those like meetings that I mentioned, and then I'll sit down and try to articulate myself in this way when I want to make a request to my partner. So it might kind of sound like, I feel like, so I could be something that I would start with your emotion. So what is it that you're feeling? It might be, I feel annoyed so what you see or hear when, for example, I see the TV on when you are, alone with our child, and it's your time together, or when you're on your phone, when I see that you're on your phone, and when it's your time with our child, because it's really, and then start to say like, why is this so important to you? So it's really important to me that you and her have a close relationship, that you guys have your time to bond together. And I would really appreciate next time when you're alone with our child, if you could please put your phone away or turn the TV off and be really, present with her. Yeah, so that's a kind of example of how we can have these conversations. And you might hear it sounds really different to saying like, you always have the TV on, you're never present with our child, when you're with them. Can you just get off your phone, right? As soon as you hear it in that way, it's received with defensiveness. Oh, but I was just checking something. I was still playing with her, right? It's just gonna lead to that kind of conversation. But it sounds so different when you start with, how does it make you feel, right? Right. So I feel really sad, just when our daughter is trying to get your attention, and I see, so what you see, when I see that you're on your phone and she's trying to get your attention, because it's really important to me that we're present when we're with her, or that you have bonding time together. And I would really appreciate if next time when you're with her, you can put your phone away. Yeah, that's another example. Or something else, another topic, another example might be, I really feel maybe alone or lonely because I notice, so what you see, I notice that we're not touching anymore, we don't hug anymore. So why is it so important to you? It's really important to me to have physical touch, to feel close to you. Yeah, and I would really appreciate if we made more effort to hug each other throughout the day, or give each other a kiss before I go to work. Yeah, so that's another example of how we can make a request with a very soft startup. So how I feel, what you see and hear. So keep that part. Number two, try to keep it really factual. As soon as we kind of put our interpretation on it, like for example with the phone, like when you're chatting with you're distracted with your friends on your phone, that's making an assumption of what they're doing, right? We may not actually know. So it's better to say what you see. When I see that you're on your phone, that's a fact.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then why is it important to you? Coming back to like your core values. What is important to you about that particular thing that you're asking for? And then the last part is what you would like to see them do differently. So I hope that's making sense.
Yeah, that sounds like a good guideline. And I can see how it's very different from just blowing out accusations. So
Yeah, absolutely. And it really changes, I guess, how it's being received, if it's done in this kind of format. So just, you can take a photo of this if it's helpful. And when you sit together and you want to talk about something, like, don't be scared to just sometimes bring this up and like use this template as a starting point, to talk about, to have a conversation with your partner. Appreciation. So I really wanted to have something interactive here, but this is more something you can do, an activity you can do. Some of you may be on this call with your partner, some may be listening to it later with their partner, but if you can turn to your partner, just take a moment, turn to your partner. If you're not with your partner, take a moment to write down on a piece of paper and share with them later, and hopefully you can ask them to do the same too. Just one thing you appreciate about them from today or this week. And be really specific about this. Yeah, this is something you can try to do. I would encourage you to do on a daily basis. Be really specific. Like, I really appreciate that you joined me to listen to this talk today. Or I really appreciated that you allowed I could sleep in this morning. You took our child so I could have a sleep in. Or I really appreciated that you followed me to our, I don't know, our scan the other day. I really like it when you come with me to these things. Think of one thing that you appreciate. And once you've done that, think of what's one quality, whether you're pregnant or you've had your baby already, what's one quality that in your partner, that you hope to see in your baby. And again, be really specific about it. What's one thing you really admire about your partner? And share this with them. You might want to take some time to do this after the call as well, if you haven't done it now. But try to do this. I encourage you to create a culture of appreciation. So I remember when we first had our first child, I would try to consciously remind myself, like, once he's gone to sleep, to just sit together and say one thing. You start your interaction at the end of the day, once the kids go to sleep. What's one thing you really appreciate about that partner from today? And even just starting out with that, you may find the rest of your evening like is a lot better. It's so easy to, like, the kids go to bed, oh, let's just talk about like what you're annoyed at the other person for that day, what they didn't do that day. And that's just going to lead to like a lot of disconnection at the end of the day. So, but if you can start on a positive, you may notice it changes the way we interact with each other for the rest of that day. Whether it's in the morning or after the kids go to sleep, to try this. And even also thinking, I haven't gone so much into it, but building a culture also of like some rituals where you can connect with each other. It could be like thinking, okay, where can we connect in our day? Is it maybe before in the morning? Like, are you up before the kids? Is it a breakfast? What point? And everyone's kind of schedules are different. So what point in the day would you say is a really good time to connect with your partner? I know for me, it's at the end of the day once the kids go to bed, and we maybe sitting on the couch together at some point, either before we've done our work or after, but always having that time together to sit and talk and connect before you go to sleep, because it's so easy to miss each other. And again, it's that small things often. If you don't do that every day, you will start to feel really disconnected quickly. Yeah. It doesn't have to be for long, 5 minutes. But it's so easy after kids go to sleep to turn on Netflix, to go on our phones, and to disconnect from each other, because so often I hear couples saying, I just want to unwind, and my unwinding is being on my phone or watching Netflix. but you're then staying disconnected from each other at the end of the day. So maybe you do go on your phone and you watch Netflix, but have a time, a ritual where you spend without phones away, where you connect with each other without the kids around.
Amazing.
That's the end of my talk.
So I was wondering if, have you got more? Okay, perfect. Yeah, let's talk about this first and then open it up for any questions, or maybe mummies or daddies want to share what worked for them.
Sure. So I just wanted to, I guess, just to finish, I'll share a bit about what the support options are out there. So this is our team. I work for Alliance Counselling, and we have a team of therapists that specialize. This is just part of the team that does more perinatal work. So that works with parents through pregnancy and postpartum. We have a much bigger team than this. Some are couples counselor trained. I don't specialize in couples counseling, but I do work with parents to help them prepare to have the baby. So if it's specific to like preparation for baby, I can see couples through pregnancy or just after the baby, if it's about kind of that early parenting piece. But for couples that are having more complex issues and conflict, there are more specialized couples therapists that do that. I also work with individuals, like with many mums just come in and even the individual work, figuring out what's going on for you, how you're currently communicating, what your needs are. You know, we can do a lot of that work in an individual session that can help with the couple. So I typically see mums, I guess, who come in because they're struggling with either like something that's going on for themselves, postpartum, after the baby, or anxiety before, during pregnancy. And then often it can go into more relationship issues as well that come up, or going back to work, stress around that too.
And I think that's often a really good first step to talk about, to figure out what do I actually want? What do I need at this stage? Rather than, jumping into couples therapy where sometimes the partner can feel a little bit confronted and say,
Absolutely, yeah.
work ourselves first before we then go on to couples therapy. So that's a really good thing to do, I think.
That's right. And we also run a Mindful Mums support group. It's a free support group. We have one at Tanglin Mall, one at the East at Monk's Brew Club on Upper East Coast Road. And we have one online as well for working mums. So we kind of share that out amongst our team. So each of us will run they're every month, these three support groups. And it's free. You can register on our website on Alliance Counselling, but I found it's also a really good source of support, particularly for mums, to connect with other mums, to hear other mums' experiences, to know that they're not alone. So often we talk about the relationships in these sessions as well, and just hearing how each other are coping and what helps that peer-to-peer support can really be helpful.
Amazing. That's really great. Do you have dates for your next upcoming ones?
I'm not sure about the other two, but on the 20th of June, I'm running the next one in the East. I'm not sure about the Tanglin Mall in the East Coast. You can find that on our website, but the 20th of June, Thursday morning, I'm running one in the East Coast.
And I'll post a link under the video as
well.
well.
Thank you. Yeah, that'd be great.
Amazing. Mummies, daddies on the call. I saw we did have a lot of daddies today as well, which is lovely to see.
Nice to see that.
Anything you want to share? Maybe we stop screen sharing at this point. Do you have any questions for Ashwinni, or would you like to share what worked for you? What are the tools that you use in your relationship? I've got these moms, and I've actually adopted this myself now. My husband and I have certain WhatsApp groups for certain things. Like, so for example, it'll be just him and I, but we are talking about, for example, restaurants that we want to check out, or things to do with the kids that we need to sort out, and so on. So that can be a way to sort of organize your life, I guess.
Absolutely. Technology can be very helpful for these things.
Yeah, and he's been trying to get me onto other organizational tools like Trello and so on, but I'm a bit of a Luddite when it comes to that. Anyway, let us know if you want to speak to Ashwinni and share some of your experiences as well. That would be nice, just to hear from you. And yeah, do join the support groups. I think these are a really great thing for you to offer, and thank you so much to do that, because you've been doing that for years, and I think it's it doesn't matter what you're struggling with as a mom, or if you're not struggling at all, I just want to, see other moms and be there for them to support them as well. That's great.
And if you would like to make an appointment, you can call up or send an email to our admin team. And I'm based in the East only at the moment, but I also, for clients that can't travel out to the East, I see a lot of clients for virtual sessions as well over Zoom. So offer both in person and over Zoom, but I also have colleagues that are based out at Cluny Court too.
Hi, sorry, I have one question. I hope that's okay I ask. I was wondering if my husband is a little bit more resistant to therapy. How do you suggest we open him up to it? Because I don't know, like I guess I always thought that like it will only work if someone wants to be helped, or if someone thinks that there's nothing wrong with them, it's going to be a lot tougher.
Yeah, you're right that we can't actually force anyone into therapy, and it has to come from some willingness. There's a few options. I mean, some people are less, they find maybe individual sessions a little bit more confronting and too personal, but they may be more open to it if it's coming in as a couple. And it might be how you phrase it as well. Like it's about, again, that maintenance or preparing, be kind of from a parenting perspective, how can we parent together better as a team, rather than like, hey, you
need therapy.
Yeah, you need therapy. Something's not kind of, you're the problem. Like if they feel like you're bringing them in because they are the problem and you're kind of bringing them in to fix them, then I'm not saying that that's what you're doing, but some mums may approach it in that way. And of course, there's going to be resistance. So I think really kind of being careful about how you introduce the idea of therapy. So as I said about maintenance, maybe how can we parent together better as a team, and starting together as maybe coming in as a couple, if they are more open to that. They may be more open to even like a course that's a little bit less like personal to start with, that might introduce them to like how to parent together or couples stuff. The Gottman Institute has some great ones online as well that you can like do together, watch together, little videos and stuff. It might be even, actually they have a really great marriage minute. I love this one because if you go into the Gottman Institute website, there's a really nice, it's a good resource actually. There's somewhere on there, I'll try and send it to Johanna to send to you guys. It's called a marriage minute. I signed my husband up for it. It's an email that they get, like I think you both receive if you sign up for it once a week or something. And it's a tip, a relationship tip that they send you that only takes 1 minute to read. So it might be just nudging, slowly introducing them to this idea of thinking about their relationship through something like that maybe only takes a minute to read.
Yeah. And then sometimes, Consellour, that kind of has a bit of a, not want to say, but for some people it does. It's like there's something wrong with me. I need a shrink, that kind of thing. So sometimes calling it a coaching session might be a different approach as well. We all have career coaches and academic coaches and whatever. So this is more of a helping you to help yourself.
Absolutely. And mums, as I said, even if your husband isn't willing to come in, like you can come in first, and there's still some work that we can do to help you feel better in your relationship or help you to communicate your needs better. Like even if your husband isn't ready to come in yet, that can sometimes take a bit of time as well, choosing the right timing. If someone is a little bit resistant, they're thinking about like, are they stressed with other stuff? They just don't really have the capacity to deal with that right now. We also have male therapists too, if some men are more comfortable in working with another man. That can be an option.
Yeah, that's a really good tip. But figuring out first what it is that you want or what it is that you struggle with, and figuring out to choose your battles, like you're saying, and creating a mood board for, what this is where I need to go. This is where I want to be in my relationship, and then giving you useful tools to manage the day-to-day as well.
Even if one person is trying something different, that can already change the dynamic. Like I learned that sometimes I tend to like bombard my husband. Like he travels a lot. When he comes back, I'm like, I have all these things I need to ask him and talk about. And I sometimes have not observed like that he's just too tired or not in the mood to have those conversations. And so something I've even just tried to work on in myself is being really mindful of when I have these conversations with him, because that's going to predict how the conversation goes.
Cool.
And so that's something I'm changing in myself that I've already noticed has made a difference, right? So there's lots of things even one person can do.
Yeah, one thing that I figured out as well, and this was more to do with teenagers and having conversations with them, that often sitting face to face is a little bit confronting, whereas if you go for a walk and have a chat that way, it can be a little bit easier to get to them.
Yeah.
So that could also be an idea, you know, an activity that you do where you have a walk in the evening. And
yeah, but it's absolutely a little bit less confronting, not so serious, maybe more in a more casual way.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, amazing. We've come to the end of it. It's been a full hour. I don't know how that has flown by so quickly.
Yeah.
I thank you, mummies, for joining us. It is so lovely. Every Wednesday, I look forward to our coffee mornings and seeing you there. And we always have fantastic speakers like Ashwinni. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with us today and your experience as a mom as well. It's so good too to have someone who understands what you are going through, you know, rather than just having the academic knowledge. So thank you so much. And we'll see you again next week. Next week is in person. And we're going to have some music fun with Lucy Sparkles. So that should be nice to see us off into the summer. Thank you so much, Ashwinni, again. And we hope you have a lovely day. And the same to you, mummies, parents.
Thank you for inviting me, Johanna. And thank you everyone for attending.
Welcome. Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you.